It's another podcast today.
Who would have thought? We made it to our third episode. We had all those doubters that said you couldn't do it. We've proved them wrong, Howard.
Let's start with a joke. It's going to be terrible. You can totally not laugh at it or just laugh at me. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Cold.
Cold who?
Cold open. You just need to get right into it and start talking about marketing and sales.
Okay,
Just
it's good.
right
It's
into it.
hilarious, and it's a great dad joke.
Not funny.
You've reached that. I thought it was being cold email, cold call, because we have a very silly and special guest today. I know that you and I both grew up in different areas. You, me selling Encyclopedia Britannica door to door, and you've got a legal background, right?
Yeah, worked as a lawyer beforehand. So let's do a quick intros again, just because it's still early episodes, and we always forgot to introduce ourselves, and also we forgot to introduce our last guest also. So I'm Howard Schulman. I currently work at Atletico as VP Go-to-Market.
And I'm
And you,
Jake
Jake?
Levant. And I'm Jake Levant, and I've been doing sales and marketing for about 20 years. And one of my favorite projects is a sales project that I've got where I help train people to get into sales. And my last role, I was doing a lot of marketing with a little bit of sales. But you and I are very much anchored in sales. So we spend/burn money on ideas, projects, campaigns, websites. And we thought it would be kind of fun to bring in our partner in crime. It would be someone who would represent more the sales voice in this discussion.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. I think we do spend a lot of dollars in marketing, as do many companies, whether it's small budgets or large budgets. But ultimately, it's for pipeline growth. But in order to achieve that, especially in sales-led organizations, there's a handoff to a sales org, and you need strong sales leaders for that to work.
So in lieu of finding a strong sales leader, we have a very good dear friend. I'm just joking. We are very fortunate to bring a sales leader who I very much respect. And there he is.
Gosh, Jake, I'm not even going to let you
There he
get
is.
I'm going to interrupt.
Just go. Welcome, Avi.
Avi Wiesenberg, ladies and gentlemen.
Avi Wiesenberg. Oh, he's already got the drinks
Take the
going.
bottle.
Listen, if I've got to spend half an hour talking with Jake, I'm going to need a couple of drinks to get through it.
Avi, okay, so don't put everyone to sleep, but give us a little bit of background of what you claim to do professionally.
I don't claim to do anything professionally. What I try to do in my capacity as an amateur pro is help sell stuff. I've been 20 years in sales go-to-market across a bunch of different companies, from biggest corporate in the world in terms of Oracle, all the way through to the smallest startups. Now helping build something in a completely new space. Joined a founding team at a company called Action, where we're helping untangle the world of equity for founders and execs, a super non-transparent market, and we're trying to help people protect their equity in today's market. But generally, I've been on the sales side for a long time. I'm used to jousting with marketing leaders like yourselves, and it's always fun.
Okay, so
So
first
happy to
round,
have you on.
we're happy to have you. Howard, you got to throw him one. Let's get the first.
So tell us what the
first
gongs are
round.
for. Why do you have gongs in the
Because they
background?
give these to salespeople that sell shit, basically.
Ah.
Oh, are we allowed
So
to
you're-
swear?
so you've sold stuff.
I haven't figued out the vibe yet.
You can
You
say
haven't had
whatever
any
you
more, like,
want.
seriously drop some serious swear words.
It's a raw podcast. I do post the video straight to YouTube. The clips get edited. I use we spoke about this. I use an AI tool that removes filler words and obscene language, stuff like that, because we want to keep it a little
And we
clean.
airbrush. You kind of airbrush
but I
our
feel like-
faces.
So
But it's AI.
I'm going to be honest. One of these gongs is actually my wife's. One of them is mine, but that's because she was at Gong. And if we're talking about Gong, one of the craziest stats that they released is that salespeople that use more swear words sell more, which is
I saw
super
that. It's crazy.
You know,
Maybe it's
that's very
familiarity.
I want to tell you that is a marketing move to make people think that there's some validity in that. And I heard that 24% of stats are made up by marketers.
Yeah.
Is that true?
At least 50%.
Oh, 50%.
I actually think it's to do with authenticity. I think you come across as more authentic if you stop trying to be over professional. It's like the same way people like post pictures of them running with their kids on LinkedIn, making out that this is me being really authentic, you know?
It was not a running
Speaking
shot.
of, what was your time? Jake, what was your time at the marathon?
You know, I'm proud to say it was 150 and that was for a half marathon. I left the other half for someone else to do. I only did my half. I didn't want to hog the whole thing.
It's exactly like marketing. They do half the job and then expect all the credit.
Listen, Wiesenberg,
other way around,
your weight loss later and all your exercise routines. But I want to first talk about real things. I want to have there's a lot of name calling, all in jest, and we go, okay, here's a lead. And then a lot of salespeople say, oh, that's not a lead. So I want you to define what is a good outcome that you expect from a marketing team. Just say what you expect the marketing brothers to do on that side of the fence. What's a good outcome?
Yeah, what's the expectation?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends on methodologies you're using and what business you're in and what industry you're in and everything else. But realistically, we just don't want to be wasting our time. So we want to speak to someone who is interested, relevant, that you're giving me raw materials that I can work with to get a deal out of. Ultimately, there's a huge amount of prioritization going on, right? We can speak to 10 people a day, we can speak to 3 people a day, and only one of those deals might close, if that, right? So you want to be prioritizing to focus time on the people that are most likely to close. So the better baked that you hand it over to sales, the better it would be. That's basically it.
Well, there's always a challenge because you've probably heard this. There's only about 2 to 3% of a given specific market that's even ready to buy. So are you expecting only those 2 to 3%? What about the rest? You know, we always hear marketing should take nurturing, but let's narrow it down a bit. Let's say we're talking about enterprise, and an enterprise lead is not coming. I'm ready to buy your solution tomorrow, right? You know, these things take a long time. So where does the responsibility land for what marketing can deliver in the enterprise space, and how much effort is an account executive or a full, maybe it's with a BDR, AE plus an executive sponsor to work a specific deal? At what stage do you really say, okay, sales has this, and this is what I expect from marketing?
I think when we're looking at it in the enterprise space, marketing never ends, right? Like marketing it's holistic, and I do, we can joke as much as we want on the
sure.
between them, but it's a partnership, and it's holistic, and it's also the accidents happen at junctions, right? Which is why there's traffic lights. So you want to have the rules of engagement as clear as possible at that junction, which is that handoff. But there's still elements the marketing should be doing, especially when you get to enterprise, where you need to build the account, you need as many people as possible. But ultimately, if you as a company have defined your ICP, you know who your ideal customer profile is, and you know who you're going after. If marketing are delivering relevant people in relevant companies who are open to having that conversation, that's where we want to be. And then
I appreciate that. That's pretty theoretical. And it probably is, we always are partnerships, and heart, we'll see you tonight for dinner for, bottle of wine. But let's just be practical. Like, the people hate the MQL, and they say, oh, that's just a marketing lead. And I get it. And I've been responsible for everything.
I agree with that too already now. Like, an MQL is pretty devalued in the funnel these days.
But I would say that someone's requesting a demo. People don't request demos. They try things, and sometimes your product is not accessible. So, but if there's the right person with the right stimulus downloading an MQL book that has a relevant title, so that's the discussion trigger. So that is the trigger. They're not actually looking for your product and for $1 million sales cycle, but that's cause enough for a serious grown-up discussion. And there's this dynamic of, well, they're not sales ready. Of course they're not sales ready. So can you map between the stupidest book download, and I agree, that's low intent, to someone who, that's a senior executive who somehow downloaded the book about 4 problems I need to solve today in XYZ category, whatever that marketing bait was. How do you match that? Because I also don't think that MQL is ready, but I also think that requested demo is not relevant. So where are we going to meet, and where do you put the onus on your teammates to pick up the phone and actually do the hard work?
So I think it depends on the sale as well. And I think, we're moving into this territory of like who are we talking about, right? Like, are we talking about a deep enterprise sale that's got a 6-month sales cycle? There's a huge amount of consideration and a lot of different stakeholders involved, and you want to get as many touch points as possible. At
6 months is generous.
Generous. It can be way longer. I think the question is going to be, when do you want your salesperson to have that conversation? And what you're really dealing with here is an ill-defined sales cycle. And you're injecting your sales team, potentially, they're getting frustrated because they're being injected into the sales cycle too early, right? Yeah, and by the way, I mean, with the AI tools today, there's a ton of people looking for intent, right? Ideally, and I think what you're really touching on is how lazy salespeople are, right? So
I didn't say it.
He's not going to say it. He's not going to say it.
No one's going to say it. We're not going to say it.
I would say, yeah, how's ready? Yeah, they're the laziest people. We're
No.
We're not inherently lazy. We inherently optimize for the path of least resistance. We want to get the maximum output for the least amount of work.
And you're incentivized by the commission, right? So you want to say, I have the most money to make on this, not that, right?
Well, I think it's hunter instinct as well, right? It's like we want to go where we can eat, and I'm not even sure it's just commission driven. I think there's an element here of like, good salespeople are the ones who can smell in their pipeline which are the deals they need to really focus on that are going to close. And the minute you get diluted with loads of MQLs, which are just, you're instinctively saying this is wasting my time, that's where the tension kicks in. The better you can get on intent that this is going to be a good lead, the better you'll be.
But you're hitting a trigger.
Intent is not the right word.
I mean, intent is being bastardized. Everyone is making their new product based on intent. I have a pixel on your phone and you visit your Facebook. Like, that is just being outsold. That is the most made up category. Holy smokes. Let's take a little room. What the heck do you mean by intent? Because someone downloading a book about XYZ problem that your product sells in the category, that's pretty intentful. And by the way, I'm not saying anything about lazy, and I agree with, economizing efforts. But what do you mean by intent? Because as marketers, there's so many people hacking their new product. What do you mean by intent?
So I think what I mean as a sales leader by intent and what I mean as a salesperson by intent, probably two different things, right? As a sales leader by intent, I want to make sure this is someone who's relevant in a relevant company, in a relevant position, who has the problem we want to talk about. And you're correct. At that point, the salesperson has to unpeel it, has to understand the specifics of that use case, and build a position to get involved in that conversation. And that's enough intent potentially.
But let's be real. I mean, what is the role of marketing? Marketing can do content and can do email and can do LinkedIn and can do a lot of these things. Probably the last vestige, which is not yet solved, is picking up the dialer. And that's the action that sales folks need to do. And so if someone from the right ICP is downloading the problematic book, I'm just giving that as a silly example. I mean, what more is it? Maybe there's too much. Sometimes I feel like marketing is trying to do too much and there's not enough effort there.
I wouldn't go there trying to do too much. I think
I should try to do a lot.
I'm going to work one day, last day of the quarter.
I think you're also touching on where does SDR sit, right? Where does sales development sit? Who has to schedule the meeting, right? Is that marketing or is that sales, right? So your argument is, I've got you the lead, I've got you the person, you pick up the phone, you do the action now, which is fully valid, and it depends how you want to structure your sales organization. And I think why today we see more and more that the actual separation is becoming between like growth and
I was going to say SDR in my opinion should still fall with marketing in the sense that if you have an ebook download, I'm coming from a place now, Jake, where I don't send a content download to sales. I actually ignore it until potentially someone requests a demo from a target account. But if there was an SDR team, I would want it to be with marketing because, if we're investing the growth dollar, I want to see it through to the end. If there's a meeting and be able to not necessarily control the funnel in that early stages, but to at least have clear oversight. You said before, Avi, about having traffic signals and things like that. It depends where you place that signal. It could be You can have a stop sign that's too close into the intersection or too far back away from the intersection. It's really the optimal place to put it.
G2 Crowd built an entire business based on the fact that someone was looking for a solution in your market, right? And have built a huge amount around that, and it's very, very powerful. And we look at the way that AI is evolving the whole sales landscape now as well. There's a huge amount that's going to shift and change in terms of figuring out how to open those conversations. I think, to me, the primary difference is in the marketing team, you are selling mass, and your job is to bring in those personal conversations. And I think Jake has an absolutely clear point here that if you are giving me a relevant conversation, okay, that is an MQL. If it's a real opportunity, it's an SQL, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be a real opportunity. Whose job is it to turn it into an opportunity? That's potentially on the sales guy. I have to understand the pain, build the status quo, understand who he is, understand how I can be relevant. And that's going to be on an individual basis. Marketing has to do it on a mass basis. It has to get as many people as possible who are relevant in that ICP into the funnel. My job is to make it relevant to the individual person. And I can make it relevant to the individual person if you can get me enough to have that conversation. They have to recognize it. So they have to go, hey, it's Avi from whatever company. Do you know who I am? Do I have credibility? Have they seen all of the other great stuff that marketing does, which is near on impossible to attribute, right? Whereas my job is incredibly attributable, but that's part of the challenge, and that's why they give us gongs.
Avi, I want to just cut through.
Well earned.
The next stage here of your career. Now you're in this founder mode, and so you have marketing and sales responsibility. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so where are you putting? What's that?
I hate the marketing side.
Well, it's more difficult, isn't it?
I wouldn't say it's more difficult. It's less attributable, right? It's what am I going to do? Like, you can do brand work, you can do marketing work, you can do SEO work, and it's like, how do I know if this is having any impact?
You have to make a choice.
When I get on a call and I know who I'm calling, did this lead convert or it didn't convert? It's very, very binary.
So let's hear about one of the sharp decisions you've made and one of the investments you've made that maybe paid out in marketing or that hasn't paid out. Let's hear a story of, this is you're in a smaller firm right now and you're managing it much more carefully. What's one of the bets you've made?
I mean, one of the bets I've put on is automation, sorry. So I'm using Dripify at the moment for LinkedIn automation, and it's paid off massively. It's very simple. We're in basically a direct to consumer type business now, right? I'm basically helping founders and executives who have highly concentrated equity positions in companies. I'm helping them diversify that position. So if, and we'll talk about it more length, but Howie's in Lightsco at the moment. Do we even know how much your equity is worth? How over concentrated are you on that stock? If that was a public company, would you keep all of that equity in that one stock? Probably not. There's very limited options that you have in private companies. We're helping diversify them, much like VCs do, and take that position and spread it across 10 or 15 other companies. So it's a very, very personal, sensitive engagement, right? I can't just kind of mass sell this to people. And I'm reaching out using my own personal brand, using personal connection, and LinkedIn automation is phenomenally useful. It can be super targeted, super directed. People can see who you are, and that one's paying off really, really well for us. That being said, we are, it's always a mystery, right? How much work should we be doing on brand? How much work should we be doing on conferences? How many, other paid campaigns should I be doing and things like that? PR is another one. We did one PR campaign that didn't pay off well enough for us, right? So we took an agency, it's not in my direct skill set. I've never run PR before. And that's really, really difficult to know what the value of it was.
For sure. PR is one of those things that, me and Jake also are, we sometimes rant about things. And that's one of the things where it's like you talked about attribution. It's like one of those very difficult spaces to put a dollar and ROI on. But we talked about it last time with Gabby. You know, I think Jake, you touched on it last time. Maybe it depends on the stage of your company. So obviously, Action is early stage, right? So you're really trying to get as many conversations as possible. So I would say the LinkedIn outreach, 100%. We know we've run those programs, and they work at a stage. But you know, like you said, where is that tipping point? That's a good point, because it's very hard to say SEO. Do you even have people searching for these things? You have no idea, right? You have to do the research, especially now with AI and ChatGPT. Maybe people are looking there. You never really get a good sense of it.
It's really hard. Yeah. And I think it's going even further. You know, I'm meeting a ton of founders at the moment, and the holy grail now in the tech scene is to be the 5-man startup that gets to 50 million in revenue, right?
Yeah, and the bootstrap.
Bootstrap it, but it's like, oh, with all the automation and all the AI, you don't need to hire a team of 50 people anymore, right? And it's like, well, how do I scale in what is in essence a direct consumer sale, which is very personal? How do I scale that to huge amounts without a sales team, without SDRs, without anything else that I need?
I don't want to send you a bill for this conversation, but if you want, we can speak offline and we can give you some tips. But I want to change to, you know, you used to have a sales career and you've been building companies. How did you get into this? You know, you come from a family of Wiesenberg. That sounds like you should be an accountant, a doctor, a lawyer. Like, who sets their kid out and says, hey, I want you to sell software? Like, how did you get into this?
No, you've misjudged the Wiesenbergs, Jake. My dad and my grandfather sold schmutters in the East End of London.
Oh,
yeah, there you go. It's in the blood.
I was selling stuff in school when I was 11. You know, it was sales has been in the blood, but it's.
What's the funniest thing? What were you selling in school, or what's some of the things that?
One of the best stories was I was selling bazookas and I was in school in London and now live in Israel. But my dad went on a trip to Israel and brought back bazookas, which in the day you couldn't really get in the UK, right? The bazooka chewing gum with the jokes inside.
Let's be clear. Bazooka gum, not the bazooka.
Not actual bazooka.
Yeah, it's high margin.
Bazooka chewing gum. And I got caught, I think it was in like grade 1 of high school, and I got caught selling. You weren't allowed to sell in school. Like, they didn't want people like trading in the playground, which was primarily my Jewish school's playground was just one massive shuk. And my teacher they called my parents in. My dad was like, I'm not going in, I'm his supplier. Why on earth would I go in?
That's
so no, it's always been in the blood. I wanted to get into tech. Funnily enough, I mean, it was interesting because it came up on your last episode. I knew I wanted to get into technology and technology sales. I knew that's what I needed to come to Israel. But I wanted originally to go into advertising, and I thought advertising was marketing. So I thought I wanted to get into marketing, and I didn't realize that marketing and advertising are completely different things. Advertising is incredibly creative, super fun, massive budgets and all of that. And marketing is just staring at a screen, wondering which campaign is going to give you the best ROI, right? And I kind of figured that out when I joined Oracle, that actually the thing that drives tech companies is sales, and I'm better at sales. No offense, but there is marketing as well to it. But
okay, with that, when you just stab that out there, it's going to come down. I want to talk about something a little bit unsales. Now, you are a very big sales character. You're a very jubilant person. And you also, I just want to touch on some of the lessons, because you've also a fitness buff, if I understand correctly, right?
I won't go that far. Not
you've gone through some stages. So, you know, I don't know how much you want to divulge here, but can you share a little bit of, like, you know, Gabby, in our last episode, shared some interesting tips of how she juggles an incredible amount of things in her home, how she doubles up. So she gave a very concrete pointer. Now, you, as a fitness buff and a sales guru, I expect to see a LinkedIn post of what I learned by XYZ for sales. Can you share a story, not on LinkedIn, but here, can you share a story here about maybe
Jake, those posts are AI.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're not real.
You're not giving me enough time. Hold on, let me open ChatGPT now.
Yeah,
I want the real story. We'll doll it up after, but give a bit of context as to what one of these projects is. I know that you put a lot of money on these things. You're in a betting club for weight. Is that true?
Well, no, I think, I am in a betting club for weight. I mean, I lost about 40 kilo, and one of the primary aspects, and I actually think this is, so I've never posted about this, right? Posted about losing weight. I haven't posted about the betting club. It's not really, it's much more about beating someone else and winning than it is about the money. And I actually think this is a massive aspect on salespeople and what you want to look for. It's very interesting because Monday.com, when they hired, and they never used to pay commission. I don't know how many people know this. Monday.com built a big sales team without commission. And if you speak to Nir Greenberg, one of the main things they did was they were looking for competitive people. The number one thing they measured for in the salespeople, even though they weren't paying them commission, was how competitive they were in nature. And for me, the number one thing that worked for me in this betting club in terms of losing weight wasn't even, there were two aspects of it. One was pain. I was waking up in pain, and you can't sell anything without pain in B2B, right? And the second thing was competition. There was one guy who won't be named, but I would not let him get below me in weight. And every time he got close to me, I basically was super pushed. Now, what's really interesting is when I started at ClickTel, there was another sales leader as well, who I was super competitive with. And you basically need a nemesis. And I felt this even in the Oracle days. I think most companies feel this. In the Oracle days, the sales leaders would get up and they'd be like, SAP are battering us. We need to beat SAP here. We need to beat Microsoft here. We need to beat, and you're going after a nemesis. We are doing this better than them, and we're going to beat them, right? And without that competitive drive, and I had the same thing when I joined ClickTel. It wasn't even about the competitors in the market, which obviously we had and we wanted to beat, but it was also about your salespeople. It's, by the way, one of the best tips is hire salespeople in twos, right? Number one, because you want them to compete. Number two, you want to see whether your motion is working or whether your sales guy is working, and you have much more chance of figuring that out in twos.
Well, it's interesting you say that competitiveness is one of those traits. I actually find that in marketing as well, especially in the demand generation aspect and some of the personalities around that, is because we do want to have an influence on the pipeline. We were joking before about, who takes all the credit and attribution. Right. Marketing takes the credit for the lead, but I'm sure you've seen that meme of, the cheerleader holding up the other girl with the guy, and it's like they're the winner, and there's always like a team behind it. But I think you also want competitiveness even from between the marketing and sales. Do you think that's good or it's harmful, really? Like, yeah, you gotta,
There's a fine balance, because there's a lot talked about, would you hire the toxic sales guy who can't work with anyone, and the team aspect of it. And I always felt with commission rates, it was like you're paid your base salary to be part of the team. Like, you have to share, you have to do things that you're not necessarily going to be paid for, and that's why you're paid your base salary. And then there's your commission, which I still view as part of your salary, right? There's a whole dimension to go into that, where everyone thinks it's a bonus. I think it's just your salary if you hit your result. But there's a big aspect of that as well, which is you want people with drive. And I actually think it's something that a lot of companies are struggling with today, which is getting people that just want to win, and having that desire to win, which is difficult to come across.
Howard, we have a word for that. What's our word? Every time we go to a party, what do we talk about? What's that one buzzword that it comes up when we have
ownership?
Ownership. We call it ownership, and it's just about, we try and find people who really demonstrate crazy ownership, and they are competitive, and they want to make sure things are done. And it's not just end of quarter ownership of like making sure the deal closes. It's like, get everything done, push it. There's no deadline. Oftentimes marketing is challenged. There is no end of quarter. It's every day we try and.
It's always nonstop. It's a marathon with mini sprints inside the marathon, right? You're trying to get your best time. I'm sure, Jake, you understand. Trying to get. There's a little violin there.
This is points. Yeah. Listen, I feel for you. Do you get paid if you don't hit your target?
That's a great question. It was my last question I wanted to have is about incentivizing marketing. What % do you think of total commission should for marketing, and based on what metric?
It's a really good question. I actually think it should probably just flow back to sales, right? So let's say if you say sales are 50% of their salary is based on performance, right? Which it usually is, right? 50% is commission. And you say that sales can control it and you want to push them. And I think it's also about the rejection and the fact that it's hard and you want to push them to make the extra call and make the extra call and make the extra call. I would say marketing, I would probably have about 20 to 25% of their salary based on commission or bonus in essence. And I would probably split about 15% of that on the KPIs and metrics that they need for marketing, and then just take 10% of it and just put it on the sales metrics, right? Like that's ultimately what everyone's being measured by. And
I love that. But what is the influence? What's the ability to impact and influence there when, it's very difficult to have any dramatic say into how things are managed and how things are, much of that is on the day-to-day messaging and they're happening on the phone, the legal, the way they're doing negotiations. What is really the ability for marketing to influence those?
I was going to say that also. I would say that also leads. We talked about it earlier. Where do you draw the line of what can marketing push? Like, why didn't you call that ICP who downloaded the ebook 10 times, right? Do you want your marketers to have that conversation with the sales team?
I think you're ultimately all aligned on the same goal, which is revenue for the company, right? So there is an argument to say, and the deeper you get into it, like technology companies are driven primarily by sales and marketing. You can have the most phenomenal tech company that doesn't have any sales and marketing and fails, and vice versa. And the more alignment that you have between sales and marketing in terms of the goals, and the more that you're building it together and going, you could fill my pipeline with total crap, right? But don't fill my pipeline with crap because it's not going to help anyone, and we're not going to win like that. You want to make sure they're aligned to win together, which is really getting a deeper understanding of like, what are the deals that are easier to close? What are the deals that you want? And that comes from the top. That comes from the leadership, right? Being aligned. I think the differences with the marketing team is the individual marketeer. So whoever's responsible for SEO or brand or whatever it is, can't close his own deals, right? So he's not able to directly say that deal I closed, which means it's much harder to attribute commission for that deal to him. But you can look at it holistically, and you've got things like net promoter scores and stuff like that, which all affect how the brand is looked at and web traffic. And there's a way of looking at the bigger picture, which I think you can build success criteria and commission plans around for marketing.
So you would really say as high as 25%? Would you say?
I've never been a marketer and I've never been a VP marketing, so
no, this is an interesting conversation. And it should be had. I agree. Also, by the way, I'm also a proponent, of what you said before about Monday but what does it look like to have no commission on the sales side as well? Like, how do you keep sellers motivated, not by commission, to be more focused on company values first and foremost before personal pocketbook?
I mean, this is the first time in my life that I've worked without commission, but that's as a founder. And it doesn't really affect, like, it's a different ball game. I'm still focused on the end of quarter. I'm still pushing for the end of quarter. You still need those things, right? Because you need something to motivate you, and you want to win and you want to hit those numbers. And again, it's a cross between that. I think the commission really kicks in with, number one, you know how well you're doing, and number two, it's like even once you've achieved, you want to achieve more because it's worth actual money.
So why not bonus, right? Like, so yes, the relative base salaries are different for marketing and sales, and maybe not down all the way down the line, but definitely at the executive level.
I think it's binary, and I think it's too binary. Either you hit it or you didn't. Whereas in sales, it's like, so if you're having a bad quarter,
it's a percentage.
You'll just be like, well, I've missed it this quarter anyway, so forget it. Like, I'm not going to bother. So you need that linear path in relation to commission to make sure that even if it's like when you've already lost the football game, like how embarrassed do you want to be? Like, you want to make sure they still put it in towards the end, maybe try and get a goal back. It's still goal difference that counts, whatever it is. So it's tricky.
Thank you for talking in a language I can really understand. Thanks, Avi.
I mean actual football, not like Canadian stuff. What do you do there?
What do they play in Canada?
Ringette. We play, cricket, nose curling.
Did you play that hacky sack game where you like throw the beat?
Oh, that's good. Oh, memories. Listen, I want to just thank you. This has been probably our most contentful episode, and we are on third. I think our sponsors only paid for 40 minutes, so we should be getting good value.
This is going to be like, I'm going to get like a plaque on the wall saying like, second ever guest on the Jake and Howard.
Second guest.
Option.
Is there a name yet? Is there a name yet to the podcast?
Right. So that's our last question here. We don't have a name, and it's by design. And we wanna ask our guests and also some of our listeners. When you listen,
GPT.
Of course, we've asked ChatGPT. Who doesn't? But really, it's about the organic growth and the authenticity, and just having the participation from the community. So when you listen to podcasts or look at your content online, especially now with loads of AI stuff, what would resonate with you with a bunch of professionals in the B2B go-to-market space, both marketing, sales, success, maybe even products and founders and designers, to hear some of their voices? What would resonate with you? What kind of name or vibe? Everyone talks about vibes these days. Gabby said, what did Gabby last week was breaking through the noise, cutting through the noise, in some formulation, right?
I asked ChatGPT myself. I mean, questions like this I just ask ChatGPT now, let's be honest. Like, also in my life, like everything I just asked ChatGPT. So I said, what would you call a podcast with two marketing clowns talking go-to-market about? So it's got clown of the week.
Prompt.
Clown of the week's not fair on people like Gabby. So I'm
but with you, it's okay.
Fake it till you break it. Quite like that. Fake it till you break it is good. Persona non grata. I mean, that's not fair. Howie's still got a job. Funnel fiction. Funnel fiction's quite good.
Whoa, that's good.
Funnel fiction.
Not bad. The others aren't that good, but that's not bad. You could go off those and then refine.
All right. Thanks for the contribution. Yeah.
Avi, great seeing you.
Yeah, thanks for your time today. Good stuff.
Take care, Avi. Bye. Take care. So, Jake, we've wrapped up another interesting guest. I was a little bit jaded against marketing, but I think he's learning, right? It sounds like being a founder who's dipped his toes in what it means to put the effort into generating pipeline. We'll convert Avi to a full-fledged marketing persona. I think not that he's against. I don't want to say, but we know him personally.
A lot of the experience is rooted in enterprise, very deep in the funnel. So I think it really depends. If you're a scrappy player and you kind of have to generate things, and we can talk about this in another episode. Like, as marketing team, we're scrounging for things, just getting some traction. Whereas I think if you're a larger company, you probably have.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a theme, just based on who we've spoken to so far and what we've chatted about. Where you are in your startup's journey requires different skills and tactics, right? I think when you're just starting in a new category, does it make sense to invest? Doesn't make sense to invest, $5,000 to $10,000 on SEO work per month, 20, 30K a quarter. I don't know if we'd make that decision, especially in an area where you don't have search volume or something that's commoditized.
Sure.
But the outreach stuff seems to be working at all levels.
Right. I would say that it's a fun thing that marketing is actually taking on. So that's a marketing trick. I don't know if that's generally part of a marketing toolkit. One of the greatest things that I took from this call is that we have to be more competitive and we need to put money and a bet on it. I think that if it's talking about weight loss or lead gen or brand building, I think that having a friendly competition and putting money on it is one of the concrete tactics.
I thought it was interesting that, like I said, I was actually, in doing research and dipping my toes more into sales to kind of say, let's get rid of commissions, right? I want to run that kind of play. Mm-hmm. And here's someone who's coming from the other angle saying like, no, it's actually the other way around. Marketing, probably, especially leadership, should probably have, some commissions component to it. I think that's, especially as the SaaS landscape is changing, that more of those kind of conversations and, standard practices are going to be broken, right. Especially with being able to automate, at least 20% of what used to be done even a year ago.
Be continued, my dear friend. Yeah. Thanks for a great chat.
Yeah, it was great talking.
And it's fun to see you and fun to have another friend join us today.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.